museum was founded in 1974 by three principal members, Thomas Watson, James Rockefeller, and Stephen Lang. And the legend at the museum goes that Mr. Watson, whose family owns property on the islands off the coast, had heard of a small runway carved out of the top of Bald Mountain in Camden. The runway belonged to James Rockefeller. And Watson stopped in one day in his airplane to introduce himself to the owner of this precarious runway. And the two were talking about the history of transportation and their enthusiasm in it. And a few months after their introduction, a letter arrived at Mr. Rockefeller's house saying, gee, wouldn't it be great if there was a place that we enthusiasts could not only show these vehicles, these aircraft and automobiles, but also demonstrate them to the public. In 1974, the museum held its first, what they called a rally. It's now our Transportation Spectacular. And from what I understand, that was a bit of a test bed to see if there was enough enthusiasm with the general public to begin an actual organization like the museum. And our first actual display space was what is now simply our automotive restoration shop. That was the entire museum. We'll see that a little bit later, hopefully. But it housed one airplane and I believe two automobiles, and that was the museum's collection. But there was an overwhelming response to that first event, held in the summer of '74, in which the public turned out in droves with their antique vehicles and antique aircraft to come and see these things in operation. And that's really been the underlying mission of the museum since its beginning. The aspect of the museum that sets us apart and makes us the most interesting or exciting we can be is really our most basic function, and that's the museum's mission. And when the museum was founded in 1974, it wasn't simply to collect, document, and exhibit these antique aircraft, automobiles, and engines. It was to demonstrate them. Most of the airplanes you see on the floor do fly. The automobiles, almost the entire collection runs. The engines in the engine room do operate. And that makes us so different from the other transportation or automobile museums that you can visit around the country, is you actually have an opportunity to see these vehicles in use as they were when they were new. Visitors often ask, where does the museum get all of this stuff? And the answer they typically don't believe, which is people just give it to us. The majority of what the museum owns was indeed given to the museum. If we can't have something donated to us, as in the case of this 1910 Simplex that I'm in, it's loaned from another organization or from individuals. Many of our short-term exhibitions, such as the sports cars and the Woodies, the majority of those vehicles were on loan to the museum just from individuals. And if we can't find it somewhere, we build it. The Wright Flyer we built, the Farman down at the other end was built here at the museum by our volunteers. It is a flying example of a Pioneer aircraft, and since we couldn't find one anywhere to be given or loaned, we made it ourselves. The museum generates its own funding through admissions, but two of the largest sources of revenue are our special events, which run from May through October, and that's the opportunity to see this collection in action. But the second major source is our auctions that we hold. We have an annual antique automobile auction that is held in August every year. I believe we're going into our 30th year in 2004 of the auto auction, and that's a major, major revenue producer for the museum. We're in the museum's ground vehicle restoration workshop now. This was the original museum. It housed 2 aircraft and 2 automobiles. Today we have 26 aircraft and over 85 automobiles housed in 100,000 square feet.